Hey there, word wizards. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Am I Right? I am very excited to bring to you kind of a more business side of the writing topics that we've kind of visited today with Lyndsay Phillips, who has an amazing portfolio and lots of information and just really valuable resources to bring us today. So, first and foremost, Lyndsay, thank you for coming on the show and taking the time to do that.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love
Yeah,
what you
it's
call
been
your
so fun.
audience. That's so good.
The word wizards. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
we need some kind of informal, I don't
totally.
know, title.
Moniker for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm gonna read a little bit of your bio and then I'll give you the
Yeah.
opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience. But let's just get to know Lindsay a little bit. So
All right.
she is the CEO of Smooth Sailing Business Growth and Smooth Business Podcasting. She is also a podcaster and she's a content marketing and podcast expert and the host of Leverage Your Podcast Show. And she's the creator of the podcast leverage system. So today we're going to talk about how, it's so important to represent yourself as a brand, as a writer, and how it can't just be whatever team you have, it has to be you too. You're always promoting yourself. And that's something that Lindsay is an expert in. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your business and introduce yourself to the audience?
For sure. It's grown so much, like just in what it's been. And, the journey has been crazy. I'm just going from working as a part-time VA by myself to grow a VA firm. And then we niched into just content marketing and had an agency. And then I niched again to podcasting, but we always run through the foundation of content marketing, of course. And
Mm,
we help podcast hosts and guests produce and promote and leverage their podcasting.
mm. And there's a lot that I think is can be used that doesn't really get talked about very often, from meeting kind of screen to screen, face to face, whatever you want to call it, and
Yeah.
and just connecting the community. And that's what our show is about, is connecting the community. So, with that, my first question to you is, you talk about how it's different to leverage podcasting, even one episode, just in one episode as a guest, what you can do to help promote your brand. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
You bet. Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes when people are guesting on a podcast show, they have this mindset that the host is going to do everything and put you in front of a ton of people. But you also have a responsibility, A, for the host as a guest to share the episode as well. But you can use it to boost your credibility, your authority, your, visibility, and have a way to create content without looking at a blank page and killing yourself.
Mm,
You definitely can take, even if a host gives you like an iTunes link and they don't have show notes on their page, they don't have fancy graphics, you
hmm.
can still leverage that and create those assets for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we have show notes and graphics, but I've seen so much help come from the guest side. Like
Nice.
I have my authors that come on here are so much more prepared and have so much more marketing if they just put some more effort on, their end,
Yeah.
and kind of share those links. Like you said, if you have to make your own graphics, you can build those. But it's very true, and it can be so helpful. So, uh, with that, why does podcasting work? Why do you think it's podcasting that works as such an excellent medium for kind of representing your brand? Why not, like you said, send out letters or graphics or whatever it is? How does this medium specifically help you to promote yourself?
I love it because it gives you a chance to A, speed up the sales process and exponentially create more exposure for yourself and get in front of more people and impact more people faster. So when you think about the growth of podcasting, I can never remember numbers, but there's like millions of podcasts out there. I think every week a new podcast directory is being released. Like it's insane.
It's crazy.
Um, it is. And so it's not just iTunes anymore. And but don't let the fact that there are thousands upon millions of podcasts, because there are niches upon niches upon niches, and there's something for everybody. And it's still like podcasts get like thousands of downloads on a daily and monthly basis. So and it's just easier to consume. People watch them on YouTube, they listen to them while they're working, while they're in the kitchen, while they're working out, whatever it may be. And so it's just so much more accessible, especially with people
Mm,
on their phones, right?
yeah.
Um, so there's no other medium that gets you in front of that many people that quickly.
Mm,
And then on top of that, it's like like you see, if you're using the video portion, and I hope people are, you see the faces, right? And you hear people's intonations in their voices, you hear inflections, you get a feel for their personality, and so people feel connected and that they're
mm,
listening into a conversation. You are building relationships for not only for the guest and the host, but also for the audience. And if they're going to connect with you, it has been proven that podcast listeners will buy from like the ads. They will click on to like go to your page, to subscribe
mm,
to your podcast, to, opt in for your thing or whatever it
mm.
is. And so it just, if you can get that no like and trust factor shortened and quickened, then you can attract and convert people that much faster and grow your business faster.
Yeah, the no like and trust system.
Yes.
I love that. No like and trust system. And it's very true. And I love that you mentioned that personal connection, because even on television, I feel like the interviews are a little more stifled and kind of
Hmm.
scripted in some ways. It's
Sometimes,
just it
yeah.
depends on, yeah, it depends on the show. But with podcasting, I really feel like it's very raw, and you
Natural.
just kind of let the conversation, yeah, natural, let it flow, and you're looking to show yourself to your readers, to your viewers.
Yeah.
This is a great way to do it, and it's very well said, very well summarized. I couldn't have said it better myself. So another thing that you talk about is building authority, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about why it's important to have that authority, and you kind of touched on that already with building that connection. But what, as a writer, as someone, as a guest
Mhm.
on the podcast, how much authority should you bring forward before you seem kind of presumptuous, and how can you kind of make that balance?
Yeah. I think too, it's funny. I find a lot of writers are like freelance. And so they just want to stay in the background and type
Mm,
away and do their thing.
yeah.
But when you stop and think about it, if you had a personal brand and your own website where you showcase some of your work, where you post, just like a blog,
Mm,
the episodes that you have guested on, and if you have like a media page and like for people to get your one sheet and all that good stuff for guesting, people see you in a different light. And so even if you're applying for a contract job or someone sees you, for a referral, or let's say you want to get that corporate job, whatever it may be, that website with that body of content and those podcast episodes that you've guested on, and that element of like personal branding of like who you are and what you do and what your skills are,
mm,
there's automatically more value. You will get paid more, you can charge more, and you will get way more opportunities in regards to other podcasts, speaking, better and bigger contracts, connections. So you're automatically going to propel your career forward.
mm. Yeah, and so basically what you're telling me is that I can make infinitely more money just by being me on a podcast show, and
Heck
and
yeah.
trying to, yeah, and I think it scares people. I mean, it is scary. And in your bio, you
It's
talk
weird
about
to think
your
about.
start out was really, I'm cringing to turn this on and have myself on screen, and I know the feeling personally all the
Yes.
time. But if you can just push past that, it's just you being you, and
Yeah,
people will resonate. And the people who don't resonate are not the audience that you're looking for. Not
totally
typically.
agree.
Yeah.
And I know it's so funny. I was talking to a client last week and she's like, I listened to all of your episodes. I'm like, you're awesome. And then she's like, oh, I've noticed you've really like not come out of your shell, but she's like come into your own or whatever. You
Mm,
sound so much more confident and natural than you did at the beginning of like this show. And I had done other shows too, but there'd been like a year gap. And
mhm.
I was like, oh, interesting. Like, because you
Yeah.
don't see that transformation of yourself on a day to day basis. But you do get more comfortable with it. And really, like that level of confidence, like when, like, I've had never met you before, and like
Mm,
the other people in like our group, and you just can share your expertise and impact more people if you have that level of confidence. So even just
mm,
from that perspective, I honestly didn't even realize it in the process.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I think I've been told that before too, and I hope to continue to, feel more like myself on screen, but uh, that is authority. That's the authority that they're looking
Yeah.
for. They're looking for you to be condescending or to be like, "Oh, I'm the mighty writer.
Oh God, no.
Listen to my secrets." No one wants to talk to them anyway. No one
No.
wants to talk to that person. It's about just talking about your experiences and bringing what expertise you have, and it's
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to feel like an imposter. That's another thing I think that people
Yeah.
really worry about with podcasting is feeling, coming on the show and feeling like, what right do I have to give this information? And it's just sharing your life experience, which is
Yeah.
different from
Yeah.
everybody else's.
And you got to fake it till you make it, like
Yeah.
at some point in your life, right? Like, let's be real. And to me, I'm like, why be someone that you're not? Like I would rather chat with someone that I'm like, hey, I would love to go get a beer with you. You're a cool person, or go get a coffee or talk to again, or people would just want to
Mhm.
connect with normal human beings.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what gets you farther for sure, especially with this crazy marketing world that we have that's all online and
I
I don't know,
know.
there's a lot of pretense behind it. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing your wisdom on that. I want to kind of pull a couple of questions from some that you've been ready to answer, which one that I really thought was interesting is what are other creative ways of sharing a podcast episode that you've been on that help boost your authority?
Yeah, that's a great one. And it's funny because repurposing content that you already have, people think, oh, I did a blog on that already, or I did a video on that already, so I can't
Mhm.
share it again. Where that is not the case, especially if something is like, if you have a podcast, sorry, a blog, you can totally make that into a podcast episode or a video, or pull a little nugget out of it and do a video. So for
Mhm.
me, like if you've guested on a podcast, you know your material, you know what you shared in the interview, so you can pick up your phone and do a reel and share, oh, I was on this podcast yesterday and here's one little nugget that I shared, blah 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 blah. You
Mhm.
seeded that you were on a podcast, people are like, who's she? Like she's someone interviewed her. Do you know what I mean? That
Mhm.
whole perception.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or you can just say, you do a video and, oh, I this episode just went live, I'm so excited to share it. It covers A, B, C, and D. The link is in the first comment. Go check it out.
Mhm.
So it you're creating content from content, but you're just using it and kind of like slicing and dicing it in different ways.
And you mentioned slicing and dicing in your kind of in your description, and I love that you talk about it that way because it really can be as simple as cutting. I mean, an Instagram reel is what, less than 60 seconds usually. It has to be pretty
Yeah, they're
pretty
short.
small. Just pull like a little meaty piece out of it. It will take
Yeah,
you so far. And if I had to recreate every piece of content for this podcast that I set out, if it all had to be completely original, it would never happen. 'Cause nothing
no,
ever feels completely original anyway. You're pulling from your experiences from other people. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, you can save time and you can still, I think it's also, there's something to be said of if something's important, you have to say it over and over, right? People don't
yes,
catch it the first time. And so if you do have a really, poignant blog post or chapter of your book that you want to talk about on the show, repeating that a couple of times at least, helping people to see, I think that would be really poignant and helpful for audiences who may have missed the first time or the second time. And that's kind of what
absolutely.
you do. That's kind of what you help do is create that content.
Yeah,
So
because some
yeah.
people can't see the forest for the trees. But like
Mm,
even that little like nugget of that little soundbite that you just said, you could take that out of the video and out of this podcast episode and then share that and invoke, hey, have you ever felt this way?
mm,
Or just like to create that conversation, right, about other people's experience
yeah.
within that. And that's content. How easy was that?
Too easy.
I
You're
know
waiting for the
people.
catch. You're waiting for the little
Yeah, yeah, no, it doesn't have to be
hard.
complicated, people.
And
Doesn't
it
have to
doesn't
be
have to
hard.
be just paying people to run ads that you don't know where they're going. And not that that's always a bad thing. It can be
Yeah,
helpful, but you have to be careful about where put your information. So I love that. Part of what you do, I mean, you definitely are helping people kind of find their ideal, uh, what's I guess audience member, their ideal reader, viewer. And I'd love to, is there a process that you go through to help them kind of identify what that is, niching down? You talk about you can be really, really niched, you can be a little less niched. How important is that in the process between finding your ideal audience member and making sure that your show kind of fits that or your brand?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot of pieces in there. But yeah, I think people, and I've totally done this where I'm like, I can't niche down, because by niching down, I'm saying no to all of this work and all of these people, and
Mm,
therefore I'm turning money away. I was petrified when I changed my business from content marketing to, from VA to content marketing. But I was just like, there's so many things I didn't want to do anymore. And there's some things where I made more money, and it
mhm.
was easier for me to scale the business with my
Yeah.
team. And so
Mhm.
you got to think about it from, an ROI perspective on time and money. And then as soon as I did, your messaging is so dialed down so that when people go to your website, they know exactly who you are, if you're right for them, what you're doing, and how you can help them, because
Mm,
you're focused on one thing. So for me, obviously, they go to my site, they know, hey, if I have a podcast or I guest on podcast, I know she can help me. They're not thinking about anything else.
mm,
And so once you've dialed in the message, then you can dial in your offering, right? My lead magnet is I've got like two for guests and two for podcast hosts at different stages. So then they know that that's going to help them. And then obviously my services help them implement. So then, but I don't have offers on like sales. I do them, but like I don't have offers on like sales funnels or I don't know, making copy for emails or whatever it may be.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you really are dialed in on who your audience is, then also when you're guesting on a podcast, you have a very clear message of who you are, what you do, interview topics and interview questions, and then also what your call to action is to get them into your funnel, to get them to buy your big ticket item or whatever that may be.
Mm,
And then that way you're like, okay, I'm going to be on this show. Is their audience people that I would want to work with? And if they're not, then don't guest on that show. And if that show you can't, you aren't able to portray your own expertise,
mhm,
like honestly, I don't go on a lot of shows where I talk about my journey, because
mhm.
I'm like, it's nice, but it's not going to get me anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. I
um
get you.
I weave it into my stories, but like it's not all about that show.
All about your
So you
journey.
have to,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So you have to be
Yeah.
strategic about what kind of shows that you're going to be on, and really understand who their audience is as well, to make sure that
Mm,
it's worth your time.
yeah. Well, that was a very excellent and poignant answer to a difficult question. So thank you.
I hope I answered it okay.
You did great. No, that's exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. It's removing the fear from it, and I like how you say you don't have to appear everywhere. It's about finding what works with your niche. So it's okay to be niche
Yes.
down. It's okay for
Oh,
what you're
heck yeah.
presenting brand to be niche down, and it's going to be super helpful. Like she said, it can be actually more beneficial than this guy over here
Yes.
who doesn't know what it is that he's
Can I
selling.
share a good example for a writer?
Please,
There's a writer
yeah.
I know, and he is just a writer for the real estate investing space. That's pretty niche.
Mm,
He has a book on
yeah.
it, he has a website, and so he only writes for real estate investors. He is known as the real estate investor copywriter. Hey,
Mm,
Aaron. He's my brother from another mother. But like he, as a writer, and he writes books for other clients, and he, does his own thing as well. But he really, in niching down, he became the go-to person in his industry. They're like, so people in the real estate investing space are like, well, I don't want just anybody to write my stuff, because I'm probably gonna have to re-explain this whole industry because there's a lot of techie stuff.
yeah.
And so they're just like, bing, they found him. He had more business than he knew what to do with.
Amazing. Amazing. And you're like real estate. Can you get that
I know,
much
right?
business writing for? Yes, you can. You
Yes.
can when you niche down. Yes, whether it's a book, whether you're like I said, I mean, we talk about getting published and writing, but being a writer is so much more than just your book. Usually you have a full
Yeah.
other thing going on too, and that's how you get there. That's how you get there.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And great example. I hope this helps him out a little, gives him a good shout out. We're at the end of our time here, but we do want to know if we want, more of your help, more of Lyndsay Phillips in our lives. How can we connect with your community? How can we follow you?
You bet. They can go to smoothbusinessgrowth.com/write, obviously WRITE. And I have resources, whether you're looking into being a guest and how to leverage that and get more ROI out of it. And or if you want to launch your own podcast, I've got a resource for that too.
Hmm. Awesome. And we'll put those in the show notes for everybody listening. So be sure to check that out and watch it on video. See if you can feel that difference between, getting to know
Yeah.
Lyndsay through YouTube versus,
Who doesn't want to see our
using.
beautiful faces? Jeez.
I mean, we prepared for this. We put on makeup. We did our
I
hair.
know.
It is fun, and it's fun to get to know people, and
It is.
it's such a great medium. So thank you so much for joining the community today and offering
Thank
your
you.
expertise to us. I know we're a little bit different from your usual podcast episode, but you've offered a lot of great wisdom and little golden nuggets of help for us. So thanks for
Thanks.
coming on. And to everybody else, stick around here, Lyndsay. But to our word wizards out there, right on.